Welcome to my channel. I don't really much know anything about polls in general. The thing I know is that there's a winner and there's a loser. Whoever's got the most votes wins. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the popular vote. We have, from the beginning of this country, what you call the Electoral College. Every state has a number of delegates. Based upon how many districts are in the state for your House of Representatives. I think, I'm not certain about the state of Wisconsin, but I think that it has like maybe 10 or 11, maybe 16. I don't know. I don't know how many districts Wisconsin has, to say the least. But we're going to be focusing on a state that clearly dominates during the off year after the election, which is called, the state is called Iowa. Iowa is what you call the fair weather state where politicians around the world put their tests, they're putting their foot in the water to test whether there be a viable candidate for the presidency of the United States. So anybody and anywhere, by the time they're 35 and they're a United States citizen and not convicted of any crime, can run for the president of the United States. Between Iowa and New Hampshire, it is clearly stated that in New Hampshire, bylaws in their state constitution, that they are the first state to actually hold a primary for either party or for any party for that matter. That being said, why are we focusing on Iowa? Well, between New Hampshire and Iowa, you have a huge bunch of states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, the Dakotas that surround this area, which are what you call your fair weather Midwestern voters, which pretty much is like the majority of the voters are where they're at. It doesn't really matter if they're on the East Coast or the West Coast, because a lot of times everything kind of skewers the polls on either side. If you go to the south, it's going to be skewed towards red. You have the blue wall of Washington, Oregon, and California. That kind of builds a blue wall, which will stay true blue. In the south, will stay true red. But there's been indications that the tide might shift. It'll start to turn into like a reddish purple. What I mean by reddish purple is it's starting to turn back to the Democratic Party. I don't have any faith in Georgia or North Carolina whatsoever to turn blue and vote for Kamala Harris. I just don't. Why? Because it's just a big red wall. From Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, up north to Tennessee, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. Now, you think about that for a second. That's going to pretty much is the solid base for Trump voters. Nobody, that's pretty much for anybody that's in the MAGA movement says they have no, that's their territory. Battlegrounds is the states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona. I don't know why Arizona turned blue, but I'm willing to bet has to do with the former sheriff of Maricopa County, who actually was convicted of a felony and was pardoned by Donald Trump back in 2021, 2022 for I forget what crime he committed, but he was convicted of a crime and it was now pardoned and it is now retired. Long story short, Iowa has for a long time has been red. Now, before Roe versus Wade was sort of like the standard bearer for um, abortion rights, what came across was the Dobbs decision. I have no idea what the Dobbs decision is about, but I'm willing to bet it has a lot to do with the states' rights, telling the federal government, we'll take care of the women and we'll make sure that we will police ourselves when it comes to anything with family planning, abortion, contraception. And this was sort of like a pretext to start closely eliminating a lot of the abortion rights that were given back in 1973 with Roe versus Wade. That being said, a lot of people kind of ignored 2022, where it was supposed to be like a red wave that was supposed to take over the House of Representatives and the United States Senate, which turned it about to be a bunch of smoke and mirrors. And why that happened, there's a way to purge a lot of voters off the rolls. You know what that is? Natural death. A lot of people in the red states, especially the older generations, and during the COVID uh, uh, pandemic, I don't know how many, but there was close like 2 to 3 million people. I could be wrong, that were killed by the virus. No. So the virus pretty much sort of started to make people more aware, especially younger generations, especially the millennials and Gen Zers, be more proactive in the political arena, which makes older boomers and older Gen Xers more prone to be the minority. Because a lot of times, if you're a boomer, you're going to be voting 10th and monthly for issues that affect themselves, as opposed to what is affecting the younger generations. It's a lot of time. I'm just making a generalization, maybe a stereotype of what the voters might be or who they might be. I'm saying this because what happened in 2022 before the November elections in the congressional elections or the gubernatorial or whatever you want to call it elections, a lot of it was supposed to be a particular red wave in which it's sort of fizzled. Now that you couple that with the pandemic and many female voters after the Dobbs decision to overturn Roe versus Wade, there now seems to be more women voters out there. And now, this is November 2nd now. So you're talking about November 3rd, November 4th, Election Day. And any three of those days, there can be or will be a news cycle, which something might just come up that might just hit Kamala Harris and a black guy, which might just be the silver bullet that makes Trump president of the United States. You think you own this place, do you? No. Sorry about that. The thing about elections are anything can happen at any time. Chances are Trump can be president of the United States. In which case, everything I said means nothing. Everything that Young Turks has said means nothing. Anything that Nate Silver says means nothing. Anything that Kyle Kalinske says means nothing. Anything that says Midas Touch says means nothing. Crystal and Kyle and friends. Breaking points. All that would mean basically nothing. This is why all the reporters of the major news networks are saying this is a 49 neck and neck race. In which the Iowa Seltzer Board says nuts to that. And with this thing, this should spell a lot of trouble for anybody that's a Trump supporter. So let's go ahead and just read the polls. I'll read this article. It's from the Des Moines Register. It says, I don't know who wrote this article. I want to say Brian Fettenstall. We'll give credit to due. The article was posted, updated at 8:48 p.m. Central Time, November 2nd, 2024. The headline reads this: Iowa poll, Kamala Harris leapfrogs Donald Trump to take near election days. Here's how. Nationally recognized Iowa poll shows Kamala Harris picking up support from women to surpass Donald Trump in a ruby red state he has won twice. Okay. According to this, she's got like 4 points. First point, Democrat Kamala Harris leads Donald Trump in Iowa 47 to 44%. A new Des Moines Register Mediacom Iowa poll shows. Bullet point number 2, key point. A victory for Harris would be a shocking development after Iowa has swung aggressively to the right in recent elections, delivering Trump solid victories in 2016 and 2020. Bullet point number 3, the poll shows that women, particularly those who are older, are politically independent, are driving the late shift towards Harris. Point number 4, Trump continues to lead with his core base of support, new men, evangelicals, rural residents, and those without a college degree. All right. To me, that just means absolutely nothing to me. And the only reason why I say it means nothing to me is because this is some of the stuff that's been tested and reported for the last 40 years or so. But a lot of that stuff is just pretty much like kind of a given. And what sticks out to me was bullet point number 3. Shows that women, particularly those who are older or are politically independent, are driving the late shift towards Harris. I don't put my stock in polls. I just don't. Because I still think Trump can win. In my heart, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I feel in my heart that he's going to win. Only based upon what I think is going to happen. Because people can change their minds. To me, that's the number one variable. They can just swing any. People can just change their minds. Just say, I don't want to vote for Kamala for whatever reason. If something really bad happens in the news come like the next 15, 20 minutes or so, so Kamala Harris committed a crime, and that just gets plastered all over the internet and all over Twitter, saying, "Oh, shock and awe," and the next thing you know, they're calling for investigations, blah blah blah, at the last minute. The way the Democrats have been operating is the fact that we're playing as if we're going to go down losing, we're going to do it with all our ghosts and all our might to drag down the Republican Party in whatever way they can in a drag out shootout on election day. And many people in the upper echelons in the Republican Party know that this scenario can happen, in which everything that they have done to screw over the American people are now trying to find ways to manipulate elections to their favor. And when you try to do that, you're trying to tinker with the system. And there are some people that are trying to Republicans who feel that tinkering with the election will they don't want to circumvent the will of the American electorate, which kind of means, basically, in a nutshell, we'll abide by the rules that are set by the Constitution. And there's the people that are on the far right who say we're going to win regardless, and if we don't win, we still win. That's kind of circumventing the electorate. So the popular vote does not really matter in a presidential election for the president of the United States. What matters is the number of delegates in their districts in which the tallies of the votes of their districts will go one way or the other. Once those things are counted, and if there's, like, in general, and if all the counties voted and the majority of the voters of the popular vote in all the counties go Democrat, all the votes goes to the candidate. In this case, if the state was red and all the counties voted blue, all those counties will now go to her instead of Trump. So it's looking all or nothing, in pretty much all the states, laws that sort of solidify that sort of like core rule. So let's read the article even further. Okay. According to this article, Harris leads Trump among likely Iowa voters. Likely voters in Iowa's rest. If the general election were held today and the candidates for were Kamala Harris for the Democrats, Donald Trump for the Republican Party, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for We the People, and Chase Oliver for the Libertarians. For whom would you vote if you already vote? And this is sort of like a breakdown of the pie chart. 47 to 44%. Now, I've seen polls that were so similar to this early on this year, and I kind of realized after quit campaigning, you could put a ham sandwich in where Kamala Harris is, and that ham sandwich would win President of the United States. That's all I'm saying. They treated this as if like a generic Democrat could actually beat Donald Trump, and in this case, 47 to 44% is a really big significance, in my opinion. So, looking at the breakdown of all this, 3% going to Robert Kennedy. $47% going to Kamala Harris, 44% to Donald Trump. And to me, the biggest outliers in all this is the not sure and don't want to say. The don't want to say are the ones who can actually kind of tie everything up and just say, screw you, Kamala Harris, and give the votes to him. But looking at this, if you were in Iowa, would you feel ashamed that you're a Republican and that you wanted to vote for Trump just because? I don't think so. Because everybody's got an agenda. And right now, the agenda for the American people is, as the way I see it, fair medical pricing, student debt being lowered, and focus a lot on the Medicare and Medicaid problem, as well as give a solvency to the Social Security Administration. To me, those are the biggest issues that should be like the bread and butter of the Democratic Party. Some of the issues, if Democrats were smart from day one, I think January 2nd, to the following year or so, will yield. So I'm starting to close my eyes now. And it's becoming like a half hour just jabbering on. But I'm looking at the polls and I'm saying to myself, Kamala can pull this out. What she has to do is just keep her powder clean. In the next couple days.